Hey guys, it's Deborah. This video wasn't planned, but after a friend on Facebook sent me a article on the update to the elections, I really wanted to share the article with you guys. I know the elections can be really confusing, and the last video I did on them, I mentioned that Netanyahu won, and I changed the title to say won the most seats because that's what I meant when I said he won. He won his party won the most seats, and I went into detail in the video, and I also put comments and all that kind of stuff to try to explain. But that being said, I'm going to read this article, and this should help you better understand because I know a lot of people didn't really understand. Some people did see where I was coming from, but I'm not wrong. I explained it the best way I could, but at the same time, there was wording that probably could have been said better. So I'm fine with that. But anyway, this will probably clear things up for you guys. And for myself too, the article really did help. But I did pray on my last video and I thought, well, I'll take it down if it's not worded correctly or whatever. But after praying on it, I felt very strongly not to take it down. So and I definitely don't see why I would anyway. But regardless, what I said was still okay. He won the most amount of seats, and I will explain how this all still connects with the Enoch prophecies, the Kisma, Kaduri, Shoshani, and that everything still stands, and just to update you on where we're at with all of that. So we'll start with the Enoch prophecy of the 70 shepherds, and I'll just read quickly. I already did a video on it. Check it out in one of my latest videos. But if you don't know about this prophecy, but I'll just read one quick quote, why we're looking at the 12th prime minister and how this all works with prophecy. And I'll just read this quote from the book of First Enoch. Okay, so it says, "And I saw that man who wrote the book according to the command of the Lord, till he opened that book concerning the destruction which those 12 last shepherds had wrought, and showed that they had destroyed much more than their predecessors." First Enoch 90:19. I went into detail about the video, about the book of Enoch, why I'm even addressing it. I talked about who were the shepherds before these 12. I talked about everything, so go check out that video. It's on the 70 shepherds and Netanyahu and all this stuff. So just check out that video. But here you see there's going to be 12 last shepherds. And yeah, isn't it absolutely amazing that right now we are in the 12th shepherd? 12 since 1948. So the book of Enoch also talks about who were shepherds before that, who are good shepherds, who are bad shepherds, and it's just amazing. But anyway, there's literally 12. These are the 12 since 1948. We're on the 12th. And it's just like the Malachi prophecies, we're on the 112th pope. And that prophecy said, then the end will come, or the great terrible judge will judge his people. Just like Enoch said, after the 12th shepherd, then it's the end too. So the 112th pope and the 12th shepherd of Israel, and we're on both of those right now. And like I said, Netanyahu is still the prime minister, and I'll go into more detail what that means. I've heard people talking on videos recently that he's the president. He is not the president. He's the prime minister. I know most of you know that, but I've literally heard videos where they call him the president. I know a lot of people are American and they're used to that term. As a Canadian, I'm used to the term prime minister. Anyway, regardless, he's the prime minister, but they also have a president. But yes, he is still prime minister, which is why these prophecies still stand. I talked about him handing the keys over to Messiah, predicted by this rabbi. And yeah, that was in that same Enoch video. But the point is, if he in any way if his party did not win the majority seats, that could start to lead to him no longer being the 12th shepherd. But he still is the 12th shepherd. That stands, and I'll explain more in a minute. I know you guys know all these prophecies, and this picture is credited to revelationchapter12.com because I never like to type anything out, and I just screenshotted his screen. But anyway, this is the Kaduri prophecy on the eve of the year 5780, the year of corrections. That was last year. There will not be a government in Israel, so Knesset, for an extended period, and the various camps will quarrel much without a decision on either side. I'm not going to read the rest because that's something different, but the main thing is it's saying there is no government, and that is still happening. It's being built and kind of crumbling, and I'll explain that too. So this next one's important because it says there will come on the day 2 ministers who win the government of the land of Israel. Both their names will be Benjamin. Neither of them will succeed in establishing their government of kingship. That was Benjamin Netanyahu and Benny Gantz. And then I'm not going to read the rest because that's up for debate and we can talk about that another time. I'm just trying to refresh you guys on these prophecies that surround Netanyahu staying in power, as well as the fact that he can't form a government. If he forms a government, he's establishing his kingship, but it says neither of them will establish their kingship or government. So he cannot get majority. That's why he keeps getting just under. Okay, and then this one, which is the Kisma prophecy, the disciple of it says, okay, so let me move on. Sorry. When will the Messiah come? He answered, I fear lest ye demand a sign of me. That my answer is correct. They assured him, we will not demand a sign of you. So he answered them, when the gate falls down, is rebuilt, falls again, and again is again rebuilt, and then falls a third time. Before it can be rebuilt, the Son of David will come. So this one kind of links up to all the other ones. They all kind of link together. The only thing that I questioned was, it says the gate, which they think is the government, is to fall and be rebuilt. Now, the Knesset, it's tricky because it's hard to say, has it even been rebuilt? Because the first prophecy said there will be no government for an extended period of time. So it's like, is there no government, or is it falling and getting rebuilt many times? It's a tricky wording. I think it can still work. I would go with Kaduri's prophecy before anything, that there'll be no government, but this Kisma prophecy can still kind of link with it, because basically what he's saying is it's kind of rebuilt because there is a Knesset, and then it does in a way fall. Even the article will say it crumbles, it falls, it, comes apart. So it's like they're kind of rebuilding it as they're working towards trying to get this government, but it never really is. So whether you can call it rebuilding and falling, I don't really know. As of now, we'll just keep holding on to it and looking at it. Like I said, I'd really lean more on the Kaduri prophecy, saying there is no government at all. But this one is still a possibility because in a way, it's kind of being rebuilt. It is, while they're trying to while Rivlin, the president, is trying to sort things out, and then it falls apart. Okay. And so that's where we are right now. We're in the midst of it trying to be rebuilt the fourth time, which this Kisma prophecy says it cannot. It says before it is rebuilt the fourth time. So it's not rebuilt, but it's kind of, they're trying to right now. So I don't know what that magic date is that means that, that prophecy falls through, but if it fails a fourth time, then I would say that Kisma prophecy doesn't really make much sense. But we're still in this limbo, and I'll read in this article, I'll give you dates and help you understand when this time period is. So no one knows exactly that moment that it's considered that it's considered the Kisma prophecy is out. But as of now, it's still in, and it's still okay. And now I'll read from the article that the friend on Facebook sent me, and that should clear some more stuff up for you guys. This was just published March 24th. So let's read together. It says, Israel election is over. What comes next? A long established schedule of legally required steps now comes into play on the way to the next government or new elections. Israel's fourth election in 2 years is over, and the tallying of the votes was taking place Wednesday, the first major step in a legislated parade of necessary events that will lead to the next government taking office in Jerusalem or to new elections. The election is but one step in a long process enshrined in law that sets out the actions that have to be taken under Israel's proportional representation democracy. Final official results must be announced by the Central Elections Committee by March 31st. All parties can file appeals against the results until April 14th, 2 weeks after the official results announcement. Within a week of publications of the results, President Rivlin must meet delegations from each of the parties that won seats in the Knesset. They will give him their recommendations as to whom they consider the most likely person to form a government. Government or no government, on April 6th, the newly elected and re-elected members will convene at the Knesset for official swearing-in ceremony. By April 7th, Rivlin has to call upon the candidate he thinks has the best chance of forming a new government. that person is given 28 days to meet the prospective coalition partners and reach an agreement to get their support so that at least 61 of the 120 members of the Knesset will vote in favor. The latest deadline for the candidate to reach an agreement is May 5th. If the candidate cannot form a government in that time, Rivlin may grant an additional 2 weeks up to May 19th. If that candidate still fails to reach the magic number 61, two options are available. First, Rivlin will have 3 days for new consultations with all the parties, and then he can choose another party leader to try to form a government. That party, too, would get 28 days for a task. An alternative is if a majority, 61 or more, of Knesset members send a written recommendation to the president for a candidate of their choosing. In such a case, within 2 days, Rivlin must grant the person 14 days to try to form a government. And if that fails, the Knesset automatically will be dissolved, and a date will be set for new elections, which could be as early as September. Who runs the country in the meantime? Anytime the Knesset is dissolved and goes into elections, the government that was in power, which is Netanyahu's party, until then continues as the caretaker government. The Knesset committees continue to meet. Government officers are open as usual. Offices are open as usual for collecting taxes, getting new passports, and registering marriage and other standard business. However, in its caretaker capacity, the government cannot create new legislation or authorize a budget. With Israel having just gone through its fourth election in the past 2 years, Knesset members have had several rounds of gaining experience in caretaker governments. So for the most part, they know what they are doing under those circumstances. Should a Knesset member resign or otherwise leave the House, he or she is automatically replaced by the next person on the party's list of candidates that was submitted to the Central Elections Committee weeks before the election. That list is fixed and cannot be changed between elections. So hopefully that cleared some of the stuff up for you, the political side of it, which I'm not very interested in, but I just want to report because, we're watching Israel and it's important to the Lord and it just helps us to understand things. But so hopefully that was interesting to you, and I don't want to take long on this, but yeah, everything still stands. The prophecies all still stand. He has to continue to be the last shepherd, and he's going to be the caretaker until things get settled, which they should never get settled until the AC comes in. So nothing should ever get settled. It just should keep going like this. But we're close to that Kisma prophecy being like the time up for that one. And if you noticed here, it said an alternative is if a majority, 61 or more, of Knesset members send a writing recommendation to the president for a candidate of their choosing. In such a case, within 2 days, Rivlin must grant the person 14 days to try to form a government. So that's like the last ditch effort. So they're all going to just try their best in all these different ways that Rivlin can to get this government formed. And then this is what it says. And if that fails, the Knesset automatically will be dissolved and a date will be set for the new elections, which could be as early as September. So May 19th was kind of the cutoff, but then they said he could give them an extension of, I think, 2 weeks or 28 days. So it could get drawn out. It could get drawn out, but what we're looking at is if it fails the fourth time, it's only supposed to be falling 3 times, but it says before it's rebuilt the fourth, that one goes away. So, but the others are still standing as long as Netanyahu, the 70th shepherd, is still in there, the 2 Benjamins, there shouldn't be someone after him. And it says here, and if it fails, the Knesset automatically will be dissolved. So basically, it's kind of like it is built and is getting dissolved, but at the same time, Kaduri said there'll be no government. So it's kind of tricky wording, but I think it all still works out. In my heart of hearts, I feel like it's still all fine, and that we don't have to get super stuck on dates or exact things unless that's something the Lord shows you to do. For me, it's not. I'm a more casual person. I don't get super stuck on exact details. Sometimes they really matter. This time, what matters to me is the overall view that he's the last shepherd and that basically he can't establish his kingship or government. He can't ever get a majority. If he gets a majority, that really changes everything. So if somehow he can get this going. So basically what's happening is Rivlin has to find, he's the end decision, but he gets input from everybody, but he says he picks the candidate who he thinks most likely will form a coalition. Now, of course, he's going to pick Netanyahu and someone else, because he has 50 whatever seats. So I don't pretend to know everything, but it would only make sense he chooses him and someone else that he thinks could form it. At this point, it looks like there won't be anybody. But hey, I don't know. All I know is this is what's happening right now. This is the time frame we're looking at. When I say he won the most seats, and won or whatever, I mean like he's still the prime minister. He's still in charge to some extent. But if you notice in the article, he can't really make laws and stuff like that. He can do marriages and I don't know, they said a bunch of tax stuff and whatever, but it's like he can't really pass laws, so he's still not establishing his kingship. But yeah, but he's still basically somewhat in charge, you can say. And if someone else had won more seats, most likely Rivlin would choose them and someone else to kind of tried to form this government or whatever. So he's still kind of, I guess, he's in charge. He's still leading. He's still basically that 70th shepherd. There's no one else. So my thoughts on what's going to happen is he won't form he won't get the majority. He won't get the 61 seats or whatever it is. It'll fall through. The prophecies all stand. But I'm thinking before they get to the point where it dissolves, then that's when the rapture tribulation happens, because it says that Kisma prophecy makes it seem like it shouldn't be starting to be rebuilt a fourth time. That shouldn't happen. Now, if we're interpreting it wrong, it could be that it falls and then it begins to be rebuilt in the fall, because if you notice, that's what it says, like September. That's when they would start to try to rebuild the government again or go into another election. It's like, I don't think that should happen if I look at how it all works, but that's up to interpretation. Anyway, that said, my guess or possibility how this is going to go is that, yeah, he won't form a government, because it says that he won't establish his kingship, but that he'll stay in. He's not going anywhere. So that's just kind of the end result. Nobody else is going to take over. He's not going anywhere. He'll hand the keys to their Messiah, and we'll leave, before everything, like before the tribulation begins, obviously. So yeah, I guess that's it. Hopefully that cleared things up for you guys. It's not easy. It's complicated. So I'm not saying I know everything, but I did want to make that more clear. And yeah, that article was really helpful. So thank you to the person who sent it. And I will touch base with you guys soon, should the Lord direct me to do so. And yeah, I love you guys. I'll talk to you soon. God bless and shalom.